confidence is this? Looking toward the sun, he's faithful to complete the work that he's begun. Though we have sown in tears, we will reap with joy. Light of the world, harvest is coming. Christ in me, the hope of glory. Christ in me, everything I need. I'm renewed, I rise, I will live and not die. You are my living hope. Jesus, you are my living hope. My living
Hello and welcome to our Wednesday night Bible studies, which are normally run by my dad. My name is Adam Conway. I'm the assistant pastor at Tree of Life Dagenham, as well as the director of media. And honestly, it's such an honor to be here today. I'm hoping everyone can hear me. Just if you want to put anything inside the comments, I can actually see the comments somewhere, I'm sure. And yeah, we would just love to hear from you and hear what you've got to say. But as I'm talking to you guys, and today I just felt to talk about the first sermon, so we're going to skip over to Acts 2. I know my dad's been looking at Luke, but we're just going to skip a few chapters and a whole book, and we're going to start in Acts 2, and we're going to start in verse 16. So it's a brilliant chapter. This is the first ever sermon recorded in history. Hey Kingdom, how are you doing today? Got Anna Sue watching. That probably means the boys are watching too. My parents are watching this, so everything I say is literally going to be held against me. No, and we've got Patience and Eve. Awesome! It's great to see everyone here today. If we go to Acts 2, I'm just going to talk about, this is the first sermon recorded in history. So, when I was younger and I went to Bible college, we were taught a lot about, trying to be independent and trying to study how to be a great preacher, how to, basically preach as best we can. And so the best way we could do that, and this is what I was told, was to study other people's sermons and to literally listen to as many sermons and listen to other people, how they speak about how they did sermons, how they do sermons. I tell you, it's a real benefit that I get to read all the different notes that my dad comes up with. My dad comes up with so many notes, and I read them every single week and put them into Proclaim and put them into, when you see them on the screen, that's because I've read all of his sermon notes, whether I was in the sermon or not. I got to, I wasn't in the sermon for my dad last week, but I still got to read all of his sermon notes. That was a really powerful and awesome thing. Hi, we got Victor and Nora. I was at their church last week. It was fantastic. We got Sheila and Bill Smith, so basically this idea is, I've studied Acts 2 as well. I've studied a few other people's sermons. We've got a book coming out from one of the Tree of Life pastors. I'll let you guys find out about that later. We've got this book coming out from one Tree of Life pastor, and it's basically based on some of the sermons that he did. And I had to study what he preached and listen to what he preached and actually read through all his sermon notes to be able to make that book the best it could be. It's part of my job, and I really enjoy that job. But the other thing I like to do is I like to study old sermons. And so Acts 2, you should all know this story. If you're a Christian, you got to Tree of Life, you've probably heard this story before. It starts off basically with a day of Pentecost and the Christians gathering together. And then as they're praying, they get filled with the Holy Spirit and they see 3,000 people. They see 3,000 people saved in one day, which is awesome. That's absolutely incredible. They go from just a few hundred people to 3,000 people. That's fantastic. And they did that speaking in tongues and just seeing miracles. And people thought they were drunk. That's the first thing that people jumped to, is they looked at these people who were just experiencing the fullness of God in their lives, and they went, okay, they must be drunk, And And sometimes people will look at you experiencing the fullness of God and think you must be crazy. You know, one time I was just on, I was, I don't know how to put, I was on a spiritual high. I think we've all had moments like that. If you've not had a moment like that, we'll pray about it at the end. But, you know, that's a really powerful thing. It's just, I was on a spiritual high and I went to work and my boss said, I think you need a drug test because you just seem too over the top, too happy. You shouldn't be this happy. All you're doing right now is cutting steaks. That's what I was doing as a butcher. and yeah, he went to me, he said, you know, you just seem too happy. We should probably get you a drug test. Now, he didn't in the end, thank goodness. Not because I don't have any drugs inside me. The only drug I've got is the Spirit of God. You know, I'm not drunk as people suppose. And this is what Peter was trying to say to the people who are looking at those new believers who are thinking that's just crazy, that they're just too happy, they're just too much. He said, you know, they're not drunk as you might suppose. That's verse 15. You know, it's only the third hour of the day, right? You know, what's he saying? The third hour of the day means it's actually, I think it's supposed to be at 9 a.m. You know, they did their days and Roman calendars starting at 6 a.m. You know, we've all had some jobs where we had to start at 6 a.m. You know, it's fun. But so he's like, you know, it's 9 a.m. It's the morning time. You know, nobody gets drunk in the morning, is least of all, you know, you can't find hundreds of people getting drunk in the morning. You might be able to find one or two people. Now, I've prayed with one or two people who've been drunk in the morning, but you can't find hundreds of people all together getting drunk that early in the morning. And that's what Peter's trying to say. You know, it's something we can all understand. Instead, he says, you know, this is that which is spoken by the prophet Joel. And I'm going to focus on verse 17. This whole bit that I'm going to teach on is just going to be focused on verse 17. It says, it shall come to pass in the last days, says God, that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Well, we're going to look at all four of those things, all right? Because all four of those things are just the basis for us as believers today. You know, being filled with the Spirit, prophesying, and visions and dreams. And we're going to look at all four of those things as we go through this. I'm going to split into three segments there. So we've got the Spirit, we've got prophesying, and we've got vision and dreams. And I think they're ordered in a particular way as well. That's my personal opinion. That's a bit of etymology there. But I think Joel was given these words and Peter was given these words as well in that particular order for a reason. You know, one of the things I used to do, I was a butcher and I was also a fishmonger, you know, and when I was taught about knife safety, it's a really important thing to learn. Where I was taught you only need two things to be good at using knives, right? You only need two things. That's it. And so it was really important. You know, as soon as he said you only need two things, my ears perked up. And everyone in the room who was training, we all just like, okay, we're paying attention right now. We're going to pay attention to what this guy says. If you only need two things, that's fine. He says, one, you need to make sure your equipment's in order. And two, you need to listen to whatever I'm going to say. All right. That's the only two things you need.